announced we've got 2 cases of the coronavirus in our men's basketball program. And to date, we've refrained from commenting on the number of individuals impacted by any positive test that we may or may not have had. I think as we phased our student athletes in, and we're now to around 275 today. Some of those groups are small groups. We've talked about, privacy issues related to them on HIPAA, FERPA on campus. But I think today we decided to announce on this situation involving basketball. It's certainly, one of the sports that's going to get a lot of attention. And, we've taken the necessary precautions as we've gotten all our protocols. So, certainly happy with the processes, when these instances arrive, because they will. I don't think we're naive to that. We refer to that program, and then, we've developed, in conjunction with our UofL Health, Norton Healthcare, we have experts on campus and inside of our athletic program. But when these 2 individuals, they exhibited some signs, we had the ability to test them on Monday. And I think because we're a part of the health system, we're able to get those tests right away and the results back within hours. And we quickly referred to our phone tree of notifications and follow through and quarantining those involved. And, at that point, we go into contact tracing and make sure that we've got everybody covered in the program. And, from here, we'll monitor them, get them food service and all the good things you need to do to get them back in good health, but certainly take all the necessary precautions that I think are appropriate and our program dictates. So, we'll have test again on Wednesday, tomorrow, as we would, and then they'll be tested again next Wednesday, along with other athletes. So kind of see where we are, and hopefully as we get to those tests next week, we're in good shape with our basketball program, and that there's no one else, testing positive, or, we'll see about that. But certainly next Wednesday will dictate, and hopefully there's 72 hours and they're symptom free and no fevers and so forth, and then we'll go from there. One of the individuals already feels, fine today. The other one still has some symptoms, but we'll gauge it, and we'll go from there as we track this in the coming days. But really, that's about it for opening comments. So I'll go to questions.
Vince McGonigal, WLKY. Does this give you pause about your timetables, especially with football just 8 weeks away? And how do you not let this go sideways in a hurry?
Yeah, well, I think to answer the second one first, Fred, that's why we have the protocols. And I say we have luxuries here at Louisville that some schools don't. We have access to tests, and we get quick turnarounds. Having been through it myself and gotten a couple tests done and turnarounds back within 4 hours, we're able to turn around quickly and hopefully prevent any additional spread that I know that some schools are certainly worried about. As far as, growing wildly or things like that. I think the other thing is just, it's a situation where you just have to continue to educate. It's not something where somebody steps outside the box of your protocols on where they should be. And this one, how this occurred with one of the staff members is, just, it can happen. It's going to happen. And the good thing is, notify us. If you're not feeling well, we tell our student athletes and our staff, if you're not feeling well, then stay home. This is certainly not a situation where you should feel pressure to, as we've all been raised, to get to work or get to practice. I think this is a different scenario. So it's not one where you shame somebody if they do step afoul. You've just got to educate. This is something like we've all never experienced. So it's all we can really do at this point.
Hey there, this is Jericho with Wave. Quick question. So should you guys test next Wednesday and then some tests come back positive, is that going to extend any more of the 2-week period that we have right now where it's, things are going to be suspended for? Is that going to extend it, or how's that going to work?
Well, it may for those individuals that test positive, but since we've got everyone is quarantined and they're in individual rooms, where they live, have their own residence, whatever, we're not as worried about that. I would say that if there's tests that might test positive, we'll move forward. But those that are not testing positive and have been, by that time, you're talking 10 days out, I think we should be in a position, if they're symptom free, then we'll get them back and reacclimated back into the program.
Can you specify what voluntary practices are? What does that entail?
Just strength and conditioning and basic drills and so forth. It does allow for a scrimmage, if you will, once a week. That's usually done on Thursday. But these are more drills and working out and conditioning and working. You can have oversight from our strength conditioning, which we have.
Vince Tinsall from the Courier Journal. Two questions. One, given how viral this virus is, what is your expectation on the ability to have a sustained season, really in any sport? And secondly, do you think basketball is at greater risk because it's played indoors?
Well, I would say that anything indoors is probably a greater risk than anything outdoors. And I think it just dictates where we are with the virus at the time that season kicks off versus where we are today. Today it certainly, you hate to speculate on whether we kick off on time or not. All we can do is prepare for what we have on the schedule today. But certainly you have to be thinking about other scenarios along the way. But our focus has really been on that. And when these instances like this come up, be prepared to deal with them, and everybody act aggressively and following the protocols. And that's how we've been fortunate in our testing and our results. And but I'm really happy with the way, if you can believe it, say that in this circumstance, I'm happy the way people responded exactly according to the plan. No panic, handle it, deal with it, and now we'll go from here.
Quickly, do you have a timetable for when you expect to return with drills and all that stuff?
Well, if all goes well, it'll be that 2-week window, which would be the whatever that is, the 20th would be the time frame we look at. Really, you want to get people through the test tomorrow and next Wednesday. You hope they're symptom free for that 72-hour period. But we're not pressed to set any records on getting back to competition or back to practice. So this is a serious situation, obviously, when they come up. And while I'm cognizant of all the data that gets put out daily in the state of Kentucky, I know there's 2,900 plus cases in that 20 to 29 year age group, and there's 900 plus in the 10 to 19 year. There's no deaths in the state of Kentucky, but that's, I'm watching the age group, and that 20 to 29 has the highest number of cases in the state. We watch that. We watch the breakout of race and all the other things that we can get data on to make sure we're comfortable with what we're doing here. I'm certainly not one that's going to push the topic. Get back quicker.
Vince, Fred Cowgill again. So if my math is correct, 8 weeks out. Do you have drop dead points where you've got to make decisions that, yes, we're going to play on September 3rd, if that was the correct date or not, that Wednesday, Thursday, September 3rd, yes.
Wednesday the 2nd.
Wednesday the 2nd, pardon me.
We'll get you on our regular release so you can keep up with the rest.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate that. So are there drop dead points for you as you get closer? I mean, how late can you go before you say, we can't play this game?
Yeah, well, obviously it's interesting because, as we've talked about, there's no football czar. So I think inside the Autonomy 5, the Power 5 conferences, we do have a subcommittee. We do talk about it. We have AD meetings a couple times a week. But that's still, I think, as we said before, we're continuing to monitor the medical information and the government information that comes out. And then you have to know that if you're going into the season, you're going to run into instances like we're running into football right now. At least that's my belief. Now, who gets to set the date? I think it's going to be collaborative. And when that gets set still is an unknown, because I think people are still, focused on what's going on. There's a lot of monitoring going on. We discuss these situations that individually campuses are having. But knowing that practice starts in the next few weeks, you would have to believe that that's got to be it. So we're running out of time here for something to come down on a start date, being September, whether there's any delay in those dates.
Vince, this is Ken Spencer, WHAS 11. Like the situation you just had with men's basketball, where you've had to shut them down for 2 weeks, do you have to have a plan in place even during a season? If a season gets started, that you may have to shut a team down for a couple of weeks if something like this comes out?
Yeah, I think you have to be prepared for that, and I think that's where you get into situations, whether it's no competition, if you're going to miss a game, a no competition or a forfeit. That's hard to believe that would occur, but those are things we're going to be dealing with for the first time. A lot of it's going to be, you'd love to say you're going to have it all papered out before you start the first competition in any of these fall sports or winter sports, but it feels like there's going to be mostly decided before we start and some figured out along the way.
Vince, Drew Diener, ESPN Louisville.
Go ahead.
Drew Diener, ESPN Louisville. Why did 2 tests, make the pause? It doesn't seem like a very big number.
Well, I think we're just in a cautious state. When there's 2 that come up like that, I just think you got to think about where were your athletes, and is there any contact tracing you run? And I didn't feel pressed to put them back in the Nordic coach Mac put them back in the gym right away. Let's just take a timeout and let the contact tracing run by campus health and see where we are. And if we're off, we're off. But I'm certainly going to err on the side of caution right now.
One thing on top of that is the events had noted earlier, there is open gym that these guys have once a week. So, when you go to the contact tracing, that's why, yeah. Drew, it gets back to that.
Yeah, thinking about that, Drew, if you think about the test on Monday and you kind of went back and said, we've learned that the virus doesn't always show itself right away. It may be gestating in your system for a few days before you actually have your symptoms. So my concern was if you went back to Thursday when they had an open gym and they're out there scramaging, you could have people in the facility that might have been around the players. So I think that was my concern on the reason to take a timeout.
Gotcha. Vince, it's Jody Dilling with Cardinal Authority. In regards to that, just can you confirm that none of the other sports, none of the other facilities have been closed? And I believe this week was the beginning of phase 3. Is that correct? Are you still kind of bringing other athletes on campus this week?
Yes, that's correct. And to your first question, yes, that's correct. All facilities are open that we had as far as our plan phasing in. We had more arrive. We'll continue to have them arrive. I mean, it's not going to, we're not going to stop what we're doing. Even inside the Kieber Center, the women's basketball will continue forward. Lacrosse, as they get in there, will continue forward and both work out of that or in that facility. So this is something we feel comfortable with what we're doing on our actions today.
Then Stan Gavitt has proposed moving the college basketball season up. Rick Pitino is talking about moving it back. What is your position, and how are you reading the tea leaves at this point? What do you expect to happen? Yeah,
I'm not sure I have a position on either right now. I'm more focused on the fall sports than the winter sports. I've been thinking about, soccer, men's and women's soccer and sports like that more than I really have basketball to date. I know we're back on campus and so forth. And it's certainly, and everybody knows the importance of it, but you can't let, you can't let the economics drive the safety issues here. And I think that's why I'm willing to be cautious with the timetables, and we just have to deal with the outcome. We've dealt with that to date on having to make some tough decisions on how to maintain our athletic department. If that entails the safety means more tough decisions, then so be it. Not exciting to think about that, but as of right now, as I say, we've been fortunate. We're only going to see the headlines where there's bad news. We're not seeing the headlines where there's good news on these things, and but it's good to be able to collect the data and watch and see what other schools are doing and what's occurring, and then how it occurred. Because I think since we're dealing with this first time, it's like, what was the root cause of the issue, and is it something that's controllable, and deal with it from there. But if you got it wasn't due to, in my mind, just think about what are the practices we take in place in terms of cleaning facilities and things like that. sanitizers and wash their hands and mask. I'm proud to when I look out the window in my office and see these athletes walking up down the street like today, the full, you got the volleyball team all in mask and 90 plus degrees or whatever it was out there today, wearing their mask. And we all need to do that.
Given that some states are, oh, go ahead.
But just obviously you really can't tell the kids where to go to and kind of keep track of where they go on a daily basis. But during the season, is it possible, you think, to kind of give them stricter guidelines of where they want to go, or is that just not something you guys think about when it comes to kind of containing their outside contacts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, Cameron. I mean, we've all been in that age group, and me longer away from it than you, but I still think that I've got kids in there, and it's hard for me to even, when I talk to my own kids and they, I tell them what I'm doing on a daily basis and what they should do to keep the old man healthy. They still are going to go meet up their friends to have a beer or go have a sandwich. And I think that we got to be thoughtful about these kids. I mean, their downtime is going to be going down to the Thornton Academic Center or being in a player's lounge or being in their apartment or dorm, or if it's staff members being in their homes. And all you can do is be, just continue to educate, about being thoughtful. We've seen a couple of these other universities that they've said they feel like it broke out from one getting it from an unusual place, and then they're playing video games together and within 6 feet, and it spread to others very quickly. They took it right in the locker room.
Vince, given that different states have different standards, the governor of South Carolina, for example, is not allowing spectator sports at this point. How many different scenarios and possible schedules do you have, knowing that you're only going to have limited control over your opponents? Yeah,
well, I think my expectation, and I think you're going to see this develop, is there's certainly been criticism on the NCAA about not coming out with some minimum standards, and I would expect that to change. I really would. I would think that there's some really nice policies that have been developed by the A5, and I would think that it's an easy pickup from there for the NCAA to look at what the Autonomy 5 conferences have developed and take the best of those, and because we're collaborating with the other 4 conferences, and you can take that and make that your minimum standard. So be shocked if that didn't occur, on that. And then from that, as far as it relates on the stadiums and so forth, there are different states. We certainly see hotspots. I think we're going to look at what Kentucky, the state, has to offer, and certainly watch what happens with Louisville City FC this weekend, how they handle it, things they go through. What changes is you're still, whether you're at 10% capacity or 75, you're still going to have concessions. You're still going to have entry gates. You're still going to have a lot of personnel around. It's really the seating that you have to think about that you're going to probably modify. I think we've developed ideas around our suites and our premium seating and around the bowl, but it's just a matter of turning the knob up or down. But you're still going to have your EMS. You're still going to have your police. All that still pretty much stays intact, no matter whether you've got 100 bodies in there or 40,000.
Lou City announced today that though they have a 50% approval, they're probably going to come in closer to 30%. Have you presented a plan to what you'd like to do for football and reasonably what you can do in terms of attendance?
Not yet, because we know things are still evolving. We feel like we have enough time to turn on it. I think you'll see most of the ACC schools come out probably no earlier than August 1st. It seems like everybody's kind of running along in a time frame of August 1st to August 10th. And I think just because that gives us, as I mentioned, a lot of decisions you can have made regardless of what your capacity is. And I think that's what most are going to wait to see where capacity sits and start, rolling out those plans in early August.
Anything else for Vince? Hey, just a couple quick things. Just to be clear, this is a voluntary activity period. This is not where coaches are on the court. The only people who are there with them is our strength and conditioning coach. And our student athletes would be brought back 2 weeks from when symptoms were experienced, and July 16th is that date. And our second test would be Wednesday, the 15th. Just, again, just letting everybody know that July 20th is when the 8 hours of instruction with coaching occurs. So again, I just wanted to make that clear to let everybody know that we are in a voluntary period right now. Great. Anything further for Vince? Great.
Thank you.
Vince, thanks for taking the time. Everybody, thanks for joining us.
Kenny's on vacation, so thank him for joining us today. Thanks, Kenny.